Hey, Sarah.
Hey, Peter.
So last time we were both all blue, and that was totally an accident.
Yes,
And
yes.
today we're burgundy red.
Although I think we coordinated it
We
today.
kind of
We
coordinate.
had to
Yeah,
at this point.
right,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So the next video we're going to have to do green. So then we'll have like RGB. We'll have
great.
all
Look forward to it, folks.
the. We recorded a video exactly a week ago, right in this spot. And that video has been up for a couple of days now. But to recap briefly, in case you didn't watch it, which you totally should, in 1875, Alexander Graham Bell and his trusty assistant Thomas Watson were looking for a way to increase the bit rate on telegraph wires, which would certainly have been really valuable to anybody running a telegraph service back then. So he wrote up a patent application, and then at the last moment, he shoehorned in a few sentences about his idea for a kind of microphone known as a liquid transmitter, even though he had not even tried to build one yet at that point. On March 7th, 1876, the patent was issued. I made a video about that about a month ago. After the patent was issued, Bell went back to his lab to work on the sound transmission idea, and only 2 days later, on March 10th, he and Watson made the world's first successful transmission of human speech over an electrical wire. The museum has these two reproductions, and Sarah and I thought it would be fun to try to reproduce the March 10th telephone call 150 years ago using these. But if you watched the first part of this video, you saw that the liquid transmitter didn't exactly work. And we figured out that it was because the diaphragm in here was all loose, and that's not how they're supposed to be. So I went back to my bench and I made a different diaphragm. Sarah already knows how that came out, but we're going to watch the video together now. Sarah was talking about drums in the last video, which made me think that drum heads might work well, and I ordered a set of replacement bongo drum skins. But while I wait for those to arrive, I decided to look around the house and see what else I can try out. I cut a piece out of this zipper bag, obviously not something that Thomas Watson would have had, but it's what I have and we're going to try it. I'm going to tape it down to my bench so that I can stretch it tightly across the ring. And then I'll use a piece of old phone wire to clamp it to the groove around the edge of the ring, make it nice and tight. And then I cut away the excess plastic, get rid of the excess wire as well. That feels nice and tight. I think maybe that should work. The next step is to glue on a new needle with some hot melt glue. Now I just hold it for a few seconds until it sets. And now I'm ready to put it all back together again. Let me just speed that up a bit for you. Next, I'll reconnect the power supply and the little transformer and the oscilloscope so I can do the same tests as I did in the last video. And we're ready to try it out. I have to squirt some salt water into the little cup again, and then adjust the height of the cup so that the water is just touching the needle. Put it on the cone, pop the speaker on top. Wow, look at that. There's a real signal here now. The frequency response is terrible. It looks like it goes from about 80 hertz to maybe 250. But this is still much more promising than the test I did before with the cloth diaphragm. I changed the setup. Now I have the liquid transmitter feeding a little USB sound card going right into my laptop. We'll see if I can record some audio that way. I didn't see anything on the screen. It looks like I have to really shout right into the top of the cone. Well, that looks promising. I definitely saw a signal on the recorder screen. Could you all understand any of it? I'm going to send this over to Sarah now and see if she can understand it. So wow, she did understand it. That's kind of exciting.
So that is really cool because a big part of me didn't want to believe that would work. Like I kind of hoped it would, but I was like, okay, there's like how many things could possibly go wrong with this? There's so much that is like could be not right. But I unmistakably heard your voice like right away, right? The one thing I noticed was that the definition was so low that I kind of already had to know what you were probably saying in order to make out the actual word. So there's definitely some auditory processing stuff that's going on that made it so that I could clearly understand you, even with that low frequency response. But it was really cool. Like that, I was like, oh, wow.
I was excited.
Yeah.
And if nothing else, I think this did the same thing for me that it must have done for Bell and Watson that day 150
Yeah.
years ago.
Yeah.
Right? Because even though the sound was like just barely usable, it was like, oh, this is going to work.
Right.
I just need to make it better now. But the basic idea is a good one.
Right. Because like when you're designing or working on something, a proof of concept is really valuable. Right. And it's like, I've done a lot of projects here where I'm like learning a new skill, and my first step is to figure out like, okay, can this even work? And then when it works poorly, I'm like, no, that's great, because now I know that the fundamental concept is sound, basically.
I don't think that Alexander Graham Bell sent an audio file over the internet.
No.
Watson and Bell probably didn't have Slack.
That's, yeah. So that part kind of made me go like, you used a global data communications network of a scale that Watson and Bell could never have conceived. Right. To send me a digital file of like PCM encoded audio, which, by the way, like the encoding of the wave files that you are familiar with, Bell Labs, that they invented PCM. But anyway, yeah, the fact that you sent that over the internet to me, that was not lost on me. I was like,
all right.
Yeah.
So now that I'm all encouraged by this preliminary success, we're going to watch another video together,
okay,
which happened the next day. Well, that was pretty exciting. But now it's the next day and my Bongo skins have arrived, so I'm going to see if I can make an even better diaphragm than the one I made out of plastic. I made a template and I cut out a round piece of the drum head stuff, but it's really stiff and I don't think that will work. So I'm going to try letting it soak in water for a while. This has been soaking for a few hours now, and it feels nice and flexible. I'm going to try stretching it over the rim of the liquid transmitter, and then I'll probably have to let it dry for a few hours before I can test it. I left it to dry overnight, and the drum skin seems to be really tight now. I'm going to replace that old phone wire I used with a piece of twine around the rim, and mark the exact center where I want the needle to be attached. And now I'll glue the needle back into the center of the diaphragm and put the whole thing back together again. Bell mentions in his notebook that they used glue, but I'm sure they weren't using this kind. All right, I have everything reassembled. There's salt water in the cup. The power is on. Let's see what happens. I connected it as a microphone to the sound recorder on my laptop again, and the frequency response is much better this time. Although it's not exactly linear.
No, that's weird. There's this resonance right there after that like sharp fall off.
It's got decent frequency response from about 250 hertz to 1.2 kilohertz. I guess it's time to record me shouting into the transmitter again.
This is the first test of me shouting into the liquid transmitter using the Bongo drum skin diaphragm.
All right then, that leaves the receiver, the thing you hold up to your ear. Unfortunately, as you saw in the first video, the volume is really low and it's very difficult to position it next to your ear so that you can actually hear it. And it was even more difficult for me to figure out how to position a microphone on it to pick up anything at all. So here's a few seconds of me counting to 5, just to give you a rough idea of what it sounds like. But this recording actually sounds worse to me than it did when I held it directly up to my ear.
So that's I didn't know you were going to do that. That actually was really interesting. So this thing, when you sent me that recording that you just made with you said the words liquid transmitter, I was really amazed at how much definition you got out of the words liquid transmitter. I was clearly able to make those out, and it was definitely a higher quality recording than with just the Ziploc bag.
If you watch the first video, this is our older transmitter, and I didn't want to mess with that one, and this is one that was already kind of messed up. So I put a goatskin diaphragm in there. And first of all, it seems much more likely that Watson would have had access to goatskin than zipper bags. So,
yeah,
and that came out really nice and tight.
Yeah, wow. That looks great. But as we found later, in regards to the tightening mechanism that we talked about in the first video, both of these models are apparently missing the rim that you would force down to tighten it.
So this is just something I made out of paper to show the concept. But so that metal ring would sit in there below the upper piece, right? And then when you screw down the thumb screws, it pushes against the edge of the diaphragm and tightens it.
Right, and I'm sure that they would have experimented with different levels of tightness, which we can't really achieve with this piece of paper.
If we look at the sketch from Bell's notebook again, you see those two you see those two nuts where the red arrows are pointing?
Yeah.
Those are totally for tightening the diaphragm. So you were 100% right.
Yeah.
He absolutely thought of that. And then I took another look at the original one that Watson made, which
Look at it. There it is.
There it is. That ring is in there.
Yeah. Okay. I feel so vindicated.
You were totally vindicated.
I understand how this works, or how this was supposed to work.
And I feel kind of dumb for not having noticed that before. Because if I'd noticed it earlier, I would have had Dave or Eric machine a ring for me of just the right size.
Right.
And then I would have been able to try that out.
Like these.
Both of ours are missing it. Yeah.
Right. Knowing how things are, I bet that at some point someone either intentionally or accidentally disassembled that. The parts got scattered about. There was a brass ring that someone said, "What the heck is this thing for?" And then it never made it back home,
right,
to the model. But I think we have more models of this in storage.
I think we do too, and we have to go over there and look now to see if any of them have their original ring.
Yeah. So special trip down there just to be like all the boxes of old wooden models.
Do you want to try making a recording of your own?
Yeah, I think I should. That'd be really fun.
Okay, Sarah, so I've hooked everything up again. I've squirted some of the danger juice. This is the not danger juice, actually. I've squirted some of the salt water into the cup, and you're going to hook up the batteries now.
Okay, now do I have to
And now
scream?
you have to shout into the top of this thing, and let's see what happens.
Okay.
Chaos is inherent in all compounded things. Strive on with diligence.
That sounds like every old audio recording ever.
Yeah. Wait.
That is awesome!
Yes. More silly old telephone recordings.
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay, so if you didn't know the words of the quote I was saying, I think that would be a little bit hard to understand, because it wasn't as simple as like Mary had a little lamb. That was allegedly the last words of the Buddha before he died. So I wanted to pick a quote that like maybe not everyone in the world knew. So like, yeah, pretty good. There's definitely, again, a lot of audio processing that we do in our brains to sort of fill in the gaps in what we're actually physically hearing, right? We still do this on cell phones all of the time when we have a bad connection. So that element of it is just really interesting to me. But I am actually really excited that that worked. That is so cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
I have to point out, because you brought it up, that when Bell and Watson were out there doing public demonstrations of this thing, trying to like raise more interest in it,
Yeah.
Watson would sing popular songs like Yankee Doodle Dandy,
Right, of course. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And then everybody would go, "Oh yeah, I totally
I know,
hear,
you totally hear that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's like Watson was smart enough to realize that if you sing the top 10, wow. Now, the next thing, could I go in another room and actually hear that in real time?
So that's what we're going to try now.
Okay.
And I haven't tried this yet either.
Okay, we don't know.
So we don't know whether that's going to work.
Okay, so we need a long wire.
I have long wire.
You have long wire. Okay, let's set it up.
So that didn't really work, did it? You couldn't hear anything.
No, really, I didn't even hear. What surprised me is I didn't even hear like a dinging or a hum or something unintelligible. I heard nothing.
Right. I guess I'm not too surprised, because we already determined that this thing is like a really, really weak earphone.
Yeah.
And you have to put a really loud signal into it.
Right.
And this little microphone setup here just isn't capable of generating.
How many like microamps is like coming out of this? Like...
Right. I have another idea.
Okay.
And this is not totally cheating. So we have one of these. This
with a totally period correct plug on the end. But it is a real real telephone receiver.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. The plug might not be authentic AT.
Well, it kind of is in like thrice removed, because it is a TRS phone jack.
Right.
So
my thought, Sarah, is this thing, which they came up with only a few years later. I mean, they kept working on it, right? And that thing, go grab the other one. This thing, Sarah, is an improved version of that.
Right. And as we learned in the last video, this isn't actually real. These wires are just pretend, and this is just a piece of plastic.
Right.
But as a model of a real thing,
right.
You have your magnet, you have your diaphragm, your diaphragm.
Right. Yep. And this thing here has a big magnet in it.
Yep.
And then the electromagnet is actually wrapped around the end of the permanent magnet.
Right.
And this, by the way, that's a thing that Thomas Watson figured out.
He figured it out, that you have to have a permanent magnetic field always slightly pulling in on the diaphragm, which is why it's attracted like that.
Yep.
And then you have to have an electromagnet to wiggle
so the
that.
Permanent magnet pre-tensions the diaphragm. So it's effectively a magnetic version of the ring that we discovered that was missing, that tensions the cloth diaphragm. By the way, Thomas Watson was much more likely than Alexander Graham Bell to go to the library and read the technical journals of his day. And that's where he got that idea from.
I need a Watson. I need someone who wants to read all of this stuff and let me futz around.
So this device is much more sensitive than that thing.
On like orders of magnitude.
Orders of magnitude better.
Right.
So I thought we would do the liquid transmitter experiment again, but using this as the receiver instead of that. Right. So let me get that hooked up.
The needle is totally gunked.
That's one of the other things. If you read Bell's notebook, he was complaining about having to constantly clean the needle, because you've got chemistry going on here, right? You're running an electric current through a bath with a couple of kinds of metal in it. Let me grab the sandpaper. All right, here's what I was using before.
in the storage closet. Let's try this. Okay.
The Connections Museum is a great place to learn about the history of technology.
Yep. The Connections Museum is a great place to learn about the history of technology. Cool. And now he's tapping. Yeah.
Come back. Hurry up. I spilled acid on me again.
Oh no, he spilled acid. I totally heard that. I 100% unambiguously heard that. You started with tapping, then you said the Connections Museum is a great place to learn about the history of technology. It was so faint and so low in volume that I am convinced that this would not have worked with whatever we're currently doing. Even if we weren't having broken wire circuit troubles, which
we were, but now we've resolved them. Yeah.
But I can also kind of imagine Bell and Watson having similar troubles and yelling back and forth between the different rooms, like, "Nope, that's the wrong one. Please try that." And it was so faint on that receiver that this I do not believe,
because that thing is extra faint. And it seems to me that Bell and Watson just got really lucky for a few minutes that day.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And this totally explains why the notebook shows that later in the day they couldn't make it work again. It worked once.
Because we totally had 20 minutes of going back and forth, which you probably didn't see, of futzing with wires and trying to get the right things in the right place. It did not work right away. And we knew what we expected.
Right.
We know all the theory and everything behind this. So it definitely feels to me that they just got really, 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 really lucky. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing I wanted to mention, it's a little bit of a joke about having spilled lemon juice that you suggested, right?
Yeah.
Because Watson, in his autobiography, tells that version of the story, says that when Bell said, "Watson, come here, I want you," it was because he had spilled battery acid on himself.
Yeah.
But that version of the story doesn't appear until 10 years after Bell died in Watson's personal autobiography. It doesn't appear anywhere in the notes, doesn't appear in the earlier lectures that Watson gave.
Yeah.
So I think most serious historians think that was just a dramatic flourish that Watson added to make it seem more interesting. But
either Bell was so embarrassed upon having spilled something on himself that Watson kept it a secret until after he died, or Watson may have just added a little bit of a flourish to the story later on to make it more interesting.
Yeah, exactly.
But there's one more thing I want to try, and this might be a little overboard, but I want to try a receiver out of a 500 set.
Because those are very high efficiency.
Yes, that is the highest efficiency receiver there is.
Right.
And without getting into amplification and stuff.
So you're going to go grab a 500 set.
Yes. This should be easy. They are everywhere in the museum. In fact, I'm not even going to grab the entire handset. I'm just going to grab the receiver element of a 500 set, and then we'll screw the wires to that, and we'll hold it up to my ear and see what we hear.
Great. Okay.
Hey, look, there's a 500 set right here.
There's a 500 set right here.
Can you reach into that last cubby hole at the end of the aisle and grab me the yellow screwdriver? Okay, so the thing about the 500 set, this receiver in the 500 set and the transmitter in the 500 set, or the G-type handset, this is the creme de la creme of telephone receiver science. It did not get better than this in terms of efficiency and frequency response as well. The frequency response was yoop, yoop. It was really stable.
Not quite like the one that we saw from this thing that was sort of...
Yeah, that was really goofy. So I don't know what I'm expecting, if it's going to sound better or worse than the Candlestick handset, but it's easy enough for me to just go hook this up and run in the bathroom, and we can do the same test where you tap for a minute. We may have to clean off your needle though while I hook this up.
I'll clean the needle while you go do some wiring, and then we'll reconvene.
Okay. Okay, this is a test of the U1 or U3 receiver element from a 500.
This is a test of the 500 set G handset receiver, which is the epitome of telephone receiver design.
Wow.
Can you hear that, Sarah?
Yeah. Yes, I can hear this, Peter. Yes, I can. Wow. Wow. So, still really quiet, but very, very clear, like very understandable. Hang on, I'm going to go back to this camera now. So, still very quiet, but I absolutely heard what you said. And it was, as is traditional for the U3, the 500 set receiver, really clear. Like, I think we just maxed out our intelligibility and frequency response, but wow, what I wouldn't give for some amplification.
Right.
But that won't be invented for another like 20, 30 years.
Yeah, this was entirely without any electronics at all. No active components.
Yeah.
Just battery, liquid transmitter, and a somewhat more modern receiver.
Yeah. That is still so cool that works. I am thrilled with this experiment. Like, this has been so much fun.
Hasn't it?
Yeah. And I didn't really know going into it whether it would. This is all like real time. So that was kind of neat to have that, to sort of like walk through that history. Even though I know obviously it worked what happened after, it was still cool to see it.
So a few people complained last time because I put in an AI generated comic panel in the bad me. I apologize. I will never let it happen again.
We forgive you.
Great. Okay. I hope all the viewers forgive me too.
Okay, everybody.
All right, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time.